Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarmad Latif, adjunct lecturer at American University of Iraq, Sulaimani, and I'm the instructor of minor in climate science courses, including water in Iraq, past, present, and future. I'm honored today to be the moderator of this panel session for my professional students on the importance of Mesopotamian marshlands. These marshlands are one of the most important natural areas in Iraq. They provide a home to various unique plants, trees, animals, and even they support the livelihood of the people that are living nearby. So, unfortunately, nowadays these marshlands have faced serious challenges because of environmental damage and human activities. I was attending a climate justice conference in Baghdad last Thursday. I was a panelist of Water, Peace, and Climate Justice panel session. After our session, there was another one which was about the current situation of Mesopotamian marshlands. And I have met two environmental activists of the marshlands. They raised a lot of concern about the current situation and about losing their important lands, wetlands. So they seek for help to raise their voice to global organizations regarding this ecological destruction. They said that Mesopotamian marshlands have been recognized as the World Heritage Site by UNESCO. So based on the instruction, Iraqi government is not even allowed to plant even a flower, but they have, extracted oil in those areas. So, I have responded to their request and promised them to raise their voice through scientific publication at World Water Policy Journal, where I'm a topic associate editor. Also through scientific events like seminar, panel, and conferences. So, making efforts to restore these marshlands is extremely important for protecting biodiversity. We have very rare plants, animals, birds that we rarely find it elsewhere. So it's also important to restore these marshlands to improve the quality of water and to support the local communities. So we need to focus on sustainable solutions that can bring the marshlands back to health and to ensure that the future generation in this country, in Iraq, can enjoy and benefit from these wetlands. So today we will hear from my professional students, and they share their knowledge and ideas on how we can restore and protect these marshlands. I look forward to a productive discussion, and thank you all for being here. Mr. Yat, the floor is yours at the beginning, and Mr. Riyad will talk about the ecological importance of Iraq's marshlands. He will discuss the biodiversity and ecosystem services provided by these wetlands, and he will also explain the role of the marshlands in water filtration, carbon storage, and local climate regulation, as well as highlighting the cultural significance of marshlands to local communities. Mr. Riyad, the floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Yat Khabat. So today I would like to talk about one of the planet's important and great national heritage sites, as Mr. Sarmad said, dubbed so by UNESCO. That being, of course, the Mesopotamian marshes of Iraq. Many people, it would be criminal to describe these vast marshlands as just water and reeds, when in fact it is much, much more than that. It can be thought of as a living entity, an entity of stability and of culture as well. We must understand the true value of these marshes. Firstly, I want to talk about how these marshes act as a cradle of life, basically. There are millions of birds who depend on these marshes for their survival. There are also many rare fish and unique animals that thrive in this area, such as the marsh otter, for example. This alone would actually make these marshes a local, not just a local treasure, but a global one. Secondly, I want to talk about how these marshes are actually kind of like a natural lifeline and how they support the environment. This is done in three crucial ways. Firstly, we can see that how it acts as a water filtration system. Sometimes the upstream river waters can actually be polluted. But when they do reach these marshlands, the reeds, they actually kind of act like a filter, and they stop these polluted particles, this foreign matter that is inside the river water from reaching the marshes and basically rendering the water safe again. Secondly, I want to talk about how these marshes actually help with climate change. The soil and the plants in this area actually absorb a large amount of carbon dioxide, which is a key greenhouse gas responsible for climate change. I also want to talk about how these marshes basically help with regulating the climate as well. The water in this area actually cools the air of the region down, and it also helps make the air more humid and moist. As some of you may know, dry air and warm air are actually a critical, a key cause of dust storms, which is very dangerous, of course. This is how these marshes regulate the climate conditions of this area. Lastly, I also wanted to talk about the cultural significance of these marshes. These marshes have been for about maybe even more than 5,000 years. These marsh Arabs have continued to live here. It's their entire way of life, from their boats, from their houses, their homes, even their traditions. It's all woven into this ecosystem. If we allow this ecosystem to die, it would be the same as allowing a part of our human history to be erased as well. This is why this culture that they have is dependent on the health of the region. Now I would like to hand the floor over to my friend, Mr. Jafar.
Thank you, Mr. Riyad, for this great introduction and your great explanation for the situation. Now I'm going to talk about the challenges that these marshlands or the Iraqi government may face in trying to restore the marshlands. So there are many categories of challenges that the Iraqi government may face in order or in its attempt to addressing and solving the marshland issues and trying to restore them. The first one is the environmental challenges. So basically, in order to restore marshlands, Iraqi government have to supply a huge amount of water to these marshes in order to restore them. And basically, Iraq does not have this much amount of water because due to the climate change, the reduce of the rainfall, increase of the droughts, and raising of the temperature, all of these reasons lead to decrease the amount of available surface water, and therefore there is no enough water for supplying these marshes in order to restore them. Also, another issue is that when the water level decreases, this will lead to increase the salinity level in the water, and this will basically lead to damage or even destroy the ecosystem and biodiversity of the marshland, because it will lead to kill fishes and harm or even kill the buffaloes who is living there, and this is the main activities for the people who is living in the marshlands. Also, I want to mention that even the water nowadays that reach to the marshlands is full of pollutants, because in Iraq we don't have a proper treatment for the wastewater from the agriculture, from the domestic use, from the medical and industrial sectors in Iraq. All of these waters goes directly to the rivers without a proper treatment for them, and this contains a huge amount of pollutants. And when this water reaches to the marshes, it will harmfully affect the biodiversity and the ecosystem of the marshlands. Also, we have political challenges that the Iraqi government may face. One of the main one is that the the majority of water that comes to Iraq is coming from upstream countries like Turkey and Iran. And Turkey now is constructing a gap project on the tributaries that's coming to Iraq. Also, Iran intentionally shift the flows of the tributaries that go into Iraq to re-entering Iran. So this will lead to reduce the amount of water that will reach to the Tigris and Euphrates, and therefore reduce the amount of water that can be supplied to the marshes. Also, Iraq's lack of the national water policy for sharing the water to the marshland. There is no clear national policy for sharing and sharing and emphasis on the percent of water or the amount of water that's supposed to be supplied to the marshes. Also, we have poor coordination between ministries in Iraq. We have this project require the collaboration of Water Resource Ministry, Ministry of Health and Environment, Ministry of Planning, and maybe this require another ministries to be involved. So we have a lack of proper coordination between these ministries. Also, we have social challenges because water plays a crucial role for the economical activities for the people who are living in the marshes. The water is shaping the life for the families and for the communities in the marshlands, since their life is centered around fishing, buffalo breeding, and could be agriculture as well. So when the water level decreases, this will lead to harmfully affect the main source of income for these families, and therefore these families has already left the marshes. In order to restore the marshes, we have to bring these families back to the marshes, which is quite difficult because there is no proper government support for these families. There is no public supply, like the proper electricity, proper infrastructure in these areas. So convincing these people to go back to their homeland is quite difficult. Now I'm giving the microphone to my partner, Zainab.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jaffa, for this information. And I'm going to continue to talk about what the Iraqi government has done until now about the restoration of the marshlands of Iraq. So before diving into this discussion, let's first give an overview about what happened to the marshlands under Saddam Hussein's regime. Okay, so because of the revolution in 1991, Saddam Hussein built dikes and canals to dry these marshlands on purpose as a punishment for the revolution against his regime. After the 2003, the new Iraqi government tried to solve this problem. So they created a new governmental agencies. They called it the Center of Restoration of Iraqi Marshes and Wetlands. This center, with the help of Iraqi Ministry for Water Resources, they initialized the first program, and they called it the Marshland Restoration Program, which started from 2003 until 2008. This program focused on three major things. The first thing is to destroy these dikes, and then the second thing is to reintroduce water from rivers like Euphrates and Tigris. The third thing is they made hydrological surveys to understand how to restore water to these lands. As you mentioned, Dr. Sarmad, in 2016, the UNESCO nominates the marshlands as the World Heritage Site, and this comes as a result of hard work from the Iraqi government. This is a very significant achievement, actually, because it raised the global awareness about these lands in Iraq, okay, and pushed the Iraqi government to restore these lands in accordance to the international standards. So this in turn led to, after the 2016, the Iraqi government partnering with international donors and the UNDP. They introduce technology for monitoring and managing water levels in these lands, and they support the marsh Arabs in these lands. They supported them financially for their livelihoods, especially, as you know, those people depend heavily on these lands for fishing, for agriculture, and even for raising cattle. So the thing is, unfortunately, with all these efforts, we still don't have, let's say, sustainable results. We still see our beautiful marshlands dry without water again and again. Okay, so what should we do to maintain the life in these lands? Okay, actually there are a lot of steps we have to follow in order to maintain the life in these lands. The thing is, we have to let's say, to focus on the major factors. Okay, the first thing is we have to focus on stable, managed hydraulic inputs, such as water flow. As my friend Jafar said, we have to control the salinity, and we have to control the pollution within these lands. Okay, for example, according to the Center of the Iraqi Center for Restoration of Marshes and Wetlands, we have to maintain a minimum monthly flows for these lands. There should be a minimum flow for these lands. Okay, and the second thing is we need continuous monitoring and maintenance for these lands, not one and done projects. What do you mean by that? We mean, some policymakers have this approach. Let's do this project and then we are done, finally. No, we have to keep, let's say, continuous support. Let's keep continuous data collection, community-based management, and even legal policy frameworks to protect our gains. And I think I'll give the word to Dr. Sarmad Latif.
Thank you so much for your great ideas talking about the significance of these Iraqi marshlands in terms of biodiversity and ecosystem services, talking about the challenges in restoration efforts and the role of government and international involvement in restoration projects. It's very important, and this panel could be the early stage for efforts by Iraqi citizens, because it's the responsibility of all of us to help in various efforts based on whatever we can. For example, at this university, we could arrange this panel session to raise the voice to Iraqi government first, the local authorities, and the international organizations. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.